Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring a new founder on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building a company. And today we have with us Mr. Sarvadnya Kulkarni, who is the CEO of General Instruments Consortium, or GIC in short, which is a 60-year-old manufacturer of pressure, temperature, level, and flow instruments, and it is shipping its product to over 37 countries. Hi, Mr. Sarvadnya. Welcome to ELI.
Hi, thanks a lot, Ranjan, for having me.
It is our pleasure and honor to have you on our platform. To start with, I must say, uh, uh, India is growing at a very fast pace. I think it's companies like you, which are exporting products from India, making in India, and exporting globally. It's the kind of companies that empower India's growth. Thanks and kudos to you for that, Mr. Savanya. And if you can introduce yourself to our audience, tell us a bit about you, about your background, and then we'll go towards the company.
Right. So thanks a lot, Ranjan, for the great introduction. So talking about myself, my name is Sarvadnya Kulkarni. I am the third generation and CEO of General Instruments Consortium. Talking
Mhm.
about my background, I am a mechanical engineer. I did my mechanical engineering from VJTI in Mumbai. After which, I had a passion for business. I always wanted to join my family business right from the onset, ever since I know. Um, because every time that we used to have dinner table conversations as well, it used to always be around the business. So I knew nothing apart
Mhm.
from that.
Okay.
So after doing my engineering, I wanted to get into business, but definitely I wanted to learn more about it. So with that
Mhm.
in mind, after pursuing my engineering, I went to London Business School, and there I pursued my master's in management degree. And
Mhm.
after which I was working with a startup for a while as a founding member as well. And
Mhm.
soon after the startup was acquired by another huge company, I then wanted to pursue another graduation, post-graduation degree. When so I got an opportunity at Columbia University in New York, where I got an opportunity to pursue a dual degree of MS MBA,
Mhm.
where I did my MS in Management Science and Engineering and MBA in Operations.
Mhm.
After graduating from there, I was working for almost 2 years with a life science consulting company in New York. Probably it was a much different scope of work from the startup, since it was a multinational company having approximately 11,000 plus employees. And
Mhm.
I was a senior project manager and product manager over there. Obviously, getting a good experience in both these companies paved a way for me to learn a lot and inculcate all those things, whatever I've learned in the family business that I joined. So in February of 2022, to be precise, Valentine's Day, 14 February 2022, I joined this company. And
Mhm.
the first 6 months, I took over a complete training on the shop floor, because my father mentioned to me that he told me a very important thing, right? That uh, people will remember you as my son only for 2 days, but after that,
Mhm.
whatever you do, that is up to you, right?
Okay.
And they will respect you for whatever you know, whatever you do, and whatever actions you take. So for the first six
Mhm.
months, I was put on the shop floor of my company and getting my hands dirty, as we say it, on the shop floor. And after 6 months, after getting the training, I kind of went on to become the execution head. And now, just 2 years back, I became the CEO of the company. So has
Okay.
been my journey so far, and that is a bit about me.
Got it. Can you give us a rundown on the evolution of GIC? I think it has been a long legacy since 1966. How has the company evolved over the years, and what is your current strategic focus for next five to? Probably we'll come to that later on. Just give us a brief history of about the company.
Sure. So, as I told you, I'm the third generation. So, in fact, this company was started by my grandfather way back in 1966. That's also a very interesting story. My grandfather was the captain in the Indian Army, and he served
Wow.
two wars between 1962 and 1965. Both the
Mm-hmm.
Indo-Pak and Indo-China War. He was an engineer by profession as well from London University, probably
Mm-hmm.
one of the only ones during that time. And soon after finishing his stint in the Indian Army, he decided to take voluntary retirement and starting his own company. So
Mm,
at that time, the problem was that instrumentation products, that is the primary instrumentation products like pressure gauges or temperature gauges, or the products that we manufacture today, they were not being manufactured in India at all, you know.
mm,
And they were all being imported from Europe, majorly from Germany, from the UK, and they had an import duty of approximately 300 to 400%. And they took almost a year to come after ordering them. So
mm,
my grandfather saw this gap and decided that why not we as Indians should start manufacturing on our own. And so with that in mind, he decided to enter into a technical collaboration with Bordon UK, which is the oldest name in instrumentation, and soon started our company called General Instruments Consortium in
mhm,
1966. We were the pioneers, and in fact, the first instrumentation company to start manufacturing primary mechanical instrumentation in India. So much so that the first temperature gauge, which is still there in our plant that we manufactured, was in my grandfather's kitchen.
wow.
He started from there, then went on to a small garage, a workshop where he had one lathe machine and 2 to 3 workers along with whom he has built the foundation of GIC.
Mhm,
And now, going 60 years later, approximately, we are a 900 people company today and having a
interesting.
presence in more than 35 countries across the world.
Mm, got it.
So that has been a long journey so far, spanning 3 generations. In 1991 is when my father took over the company from my grandfather, as again the managing director of the company. He too pursued his education from London University, and he did his masters from London School of Economics and
Mhm,
Political Science, wherein he kind of did his business management. And
mhm,
he also had a similar experience like me, worked outside India for a year, after which he joined the company and then took over the company in the year 1991. And that is where we kind of shifted our kind of attention from domestic, that is within India business, to outside India as well.
okay.
Another interesting challenge there also was the fact that Indians were not appreciated and respected outside India, especially in the engineering sector. Way back in
Mm,
19, this is I'm talking about 1990s, wherein my grandfather, with a lot of grit and determination, kind of went and explored out markets outside India, Kuwait being the first one,
mhm,
and took almost 4 years to get approved in all the major oil and gas plants of Kuwait.
okay.
And that kind of laid the foundation of exports for us.
Mhm,
And we are proud to say that today it's been 25 consecutive years. We are the highest exporter in our category of field instrumentation, for which we have been getting the highest export award from the government of India for the last 25 consecutive years from EPC. So that has
mm,
been the journey so far in terms of our history, and I'm very glad that I'm a small part as of now of that history making.
interesting. Help us understand the products, pressure gauges, temperature gauges, who buys them and for what purpose?
Right. So let me just go a bit behind this, and let us first understand what we do exactly. Right. We are, as I told you, India's largest and oldest manufacturer of mechanical field instrumentation, primarily measuring four parameters: pressure,
Mhm,
temperature, level, and flow. These cover all your primary parameters of processes. So, in short, whichever plants or whichever customers are having processes in their plants, they will require our instruments, right? To put it very
mhm,
simply and basically, I would then divide our customer segments into three major categories. First is the major end users, be it any process plant, who's the end user. In India, you name ONGC, you name IOCL, HPCL, BPCL, NRL, all the refineries, as you call it. all of
Mm-hmm.
them purchase products that we manufacture, and we are approved everywhere.
Okay.
Secondly, this is in oil and gas industry. Second is the pharma industry in that segment, where we are supplying to all the major pharma players like Aurobindo Pharma or Cipla or Indoco. You name all of them, we are supplying there. Third is
Mm-hmm.
obviously food and beverage industry, where we're supplying to all your Nestle, your Colgate, your biggest names, you name it, we are supplying there. Fourthly,
Mm-hmm.
water industry, wherever the process I'm just talking about and probably giving in details whatever you're supplying, water treatment plants, like probably for example, ion exchange or your Praj industries, all of them. They are the major oil, the water industry players. We're supplying there. So these are end users, whoever are kind of having end users. Then
Mm-hmm.
secondly comes the EPC companies, the engineering, procurement and contracting companies who take big
Right.
contracts of these end users, and then they kind of give orders to vendors like us. So be it Technimont, Toyo, Saipem, McDermott,
Mm-hmm.
Gulfar, all these major players, whoever are the tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 EPC companies, we are approved there. So we supply our instruments to those companies as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then thirdly is the OEMs. There are OEMs like us who require our instruments to be installed on their devices, and then they dispatch those instruments and along with the devices to the end user itself. So you name all the biggest OEMs like Eagle Bergman, John Crane, Flosov Sanmar, Thermax, all of those companies.
Mm-hmm.
EPC, I forgot to mention one big name called L&T, Larsen and Toubro. So they are also buying
Mm-hmm.
from us. In OEMs also, we have approximately 5,000 plus live customers today, you know,
Wow.
who are our customer base, not only in India, but across India. This I was just mentioning about India as well. Now,
Mm-hmm.
talking about outside India, we are the only Indian company, Indian manufacturer, to be approved in all the major end users all across the world. Be it your ADNOC group of companies, KOC, Kuwait Oil Company, KNPC in Kuwait, PDO Oman, Shell, Total Energies, your Basra gas and Basra oil in Iraq, your Lukoil in Iraq, NIOC, NIGC, then your Saudi Aramco, your SABIC, Setorp, Petronas Malaysia, Pertamina Indonesia, uh, and even we are the only Indian company approved in the Russian meteorological labs. So we have the
Mm-hmm.
TRC certification, being the only Indian company approved for supplying to Russia as well, and we are supplying a lot to the US. Especially the oil and gas and power industry over there as well. So all in all, we are supplying all across the globe in approximately 35 major countries, also to North Africa like Nigeria, Algeria, Sonatrach, Nigeria, Dangote refinery. So we are supplying there as well. So all in all, we are supplying to more than 35 countries today all across the world. And our dream is to take it to, every process plant in the world should have our instruments there. That is my vision.
Wow.
My vision is to make our company India's first multinational company. See, there has never been a multinational company coming out of India in instrumentation, and that is my vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I take this to that level wherein we have offices, but we don't have manufacturing plants. So we are definitely expanding in that manner where we are with aligning with our vision of being the first Indian multinational company. We are establishing sort of manufacturing plants outside India, and they are in the pipeline right now.
Got it. This is interesting. When I was just noting down the number of customers that you have in different sectors, different industries, different countries. I think that's quite an achievement, and especially uh, very rarely I see a Indian company which can tell so proudly that we manufacture in India and supply it across the globe. And India as a country has been trying to become a global manufacturer, but there are a lot of hurdles. I think for years now, global economies have been trying to shift their supply chain from China to India and other countries, but I wouldn't say it has been very successful. Can you give us a rundown on what is your comment on that? Why India is lagging behind when companies like you are able to to produce global quality instruments and manufacturing products for the world?
See, there can be a lot of reasons for this. First of all, let us clear it out as to why China is not a competition to us in our industry. See, if you ask China to make this pen, right, they will make thousands and millions of these. But if you
Mm-hmm.
ask China to make this pen in such a way that the cap, one of the pen's cap is green, one is blue, one is red, and one the shape is different, then they cannot compete because they're a mass manufacturer. So the
Okay.
field that we are in is highly customized, tailor-made manufacturing. We are not a mass manufacturer of sorts. So as a
Mm-hmm.
result, China cannot compete with us on cost at all. Because for them, they don't even want to enter into those regions where you cannot remove a kind of mass production out of it. Today, we are India's largest manufacturer where we are manufacturing 45,000 industrial instruments. All of them are tailor-made. All of them are customized. One is different from the other,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the number of transactions that are there. Today, we have every day we process hundreds of invoices, right from even 1,000 rupees worth of invoice up to 5 crore to 10 crore worth of invoice as well. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the customization that we can do what China cannot do. So, answering your question, that is what we found a niche, right? So, Indians should kind of focus what their strengths are. Their focus should be on leveraging their strengths, like for example, high technology, high customization, and
Mm-hmm.
high skill. These are the three things that we should kind of emphasize on, wherein China cannot compete with us. Where China becomes strong, we should not go there. They are strong in mass manufacturing. They can manufacture hundreds of things or hundreds of times at a lesser cost because of economies of scale. What we can do better than them is we have brains, we have good skills, we have skilled labor at a reasonable cost. We have high technology. I think all of us should really, who are kind of getting education outside India, should come back to India and innovate in India, build in India certain high technology products which China cannot compete on technology as well. So if we focus on these aspects, then China definitely will be out of competition and India will be the center of innovation and center of manufacturing.
Got it. Uh, One question on that. Speaking of having 45,000 products, that is 45,000 SKUs, how do you scale up such a massive product portfolio? Because starting from 1,000 rupee product to 10 crore product, you have everything in your portfolio. How do you prioritize? How do you, you know, let's say from 37 countries, you have to go to 150 countries. How do you do that?
So, see, I will tell you, right? The requirements of those countries are very similar to each other, you know, and it all we have. See, that's why we have 900 people in our group, right? We are managing that completely in-house. We do not have any external companies that we are tying up with or something like that. We have our own ERP systems. We have our own made because for our kind of industry, ERP has to be made by the own company, essentially,
Hmm.
because so much complication and so much customization cannot be handled out by any outsider. So a lot of companies like SAP also approached or Oracle also approached us, but we went with our own in-house system. And in-house software engineers are there in our company who handle the system day on day basis. Secondly,
Hmm.
talking about scaling up, it's at the end getting approvals from the end users that is most important. Showing our proven track records is very important to them, and showing being quality first is what I would say is always the best thing. I would
Hmm.
say, see, we took 60 years for getting to the scale that we are. You know,
Hmm.
a company can just start with one or two SKUs, but do them perfectly in terms of quality and get yourself in the door. If your quality is good enough, all end users will always accept you with open arms. If your track records prove that there has been no rejections or there has been no issues in the or fault in your instruments or machines, I'm sure any individual, if you are really persistent with them, can give you an approval and ensure that you have a foot in their door as long as the quality is maintained. Once
Hmm.
your basics are ready, once your 10, 15, 20 SKUs are ready, having kind of a Pareto principle as I call it. Like, for example, even though we have so many SKUs, 80% of our revenue is coming from 20% of our SKUs today.
Hmm.
We focus on that. We ensure that the quality is 100% right. And then we have additional portfolio products where we are adding them again and again depending on the customer requirement. So if we can focus on them right? If we focus on those limited SKUs and really focus on quality, I think there's no problem, and we can definitely ensure that we can scale up to these countries as well.
Got it. Uh, Tell us about the dynamics of family business. I think you are the third generation of entrepreneur now, and you are quite young as well. So when you enter the company and you take over, how do people perceive you? For example, sometimes people think he's young, he doesn't know anything about our business. Sometimes they would bypass you to, i- in a way they'll say, "Ki, we know what we do," and it takes time to get that authority, get that, uh, get to the leadership role that you are in. So how do you navigate that? What are the challenges that you have faced?
So, right. See, as I told you, right, as my father's son, I would be respected only for 2 days, right? After that
Mm,
is what I do. That is what proves it. That is why, first of all, knowledge is something that is the most important, and people only respect you if you have knowledge. They do not respect you otherwise. If you can
mm,
solve their problems, if you can give them solutions, both technically and non technically as well, they will always respect you, no matter the age, as I always say, right? Even in my team, in the CEO's office, all of them are good IIT IIM graduates who I have in my team, in my CEO's office, and they're all
mhm,
young. They are in their early 30s or late 20s itself. But
mhm,
people today who are much elder to them also respect them for not for not just being a part of the CEO's office, but because of the knowledge that they have and
mhm,
the experience and the exposure that they've received from other industries and they've come, right? Similarly, that is why my father, my grandfather told me to take a very good and really work hard during my education aspects as well. VJTI being a very premium institute, the oldest institution in Mumbai for engineering, I did my engineering from there. I went to LBS, I went to Columbia directly on merit, nothing else.
mhm,
And I took education from there. I could took exposure in in different companies outside India, and then I did not just go and sit on the chair of the CEO. As I told you before, for the first 6 months, I was on the shop floor. I did my own welding, own calibration. They
mhm,
understood me. The workers at the groundest level understood me. They understood what I am, what I have done, and what I can do for them for the future. Right? After 6 months, I was handling execution. Now, execution means basically understanding the customer's requirements and handling the customers in case of delays and in case of delivery issues, in case of everything, and managing them. So I got a
mhm.
respect from those people that way also, because I was the person facing the customers at the end. And then I took over as the CEO after almost a year after working, right? So I got to that stage from the ground level up. That is where I met each and every person at each and every level. And even today, I just do not go to the people who are just below me in terms of hierarchy. I go to I know the names of each and every worker in my factory today of 550 people,
Wow.
and that is the culture that I've been brought up with from, because my father and my grandfather also knew that.
Mhm,
It's not like I'm only sitting on this chair and I'm probably giving orders to people and they have to execute that. No, I know what the problem is. I know what their issue is, and I can solve it for them. And that is when people respect you. So my advice to everyone who's listening to this is that if you do not get your hands dirty, no one is going to respect you.
mhm.
So learn and grow from the bottom to the top, and just don't go and sit at the top. That's what I can say.
Got it. Uh, what about the intra-family dynamics? For example, your father would be also in charge of some of the aspects of the business, and there would be other people who are part of the board of the directors. How do you navigate through that? How do you handle disagreements? Because uh, at the same time, you are business stakeholders and you are also family members. There will be always logic versus emotion coming to play. How do you handle that?
So now, fortunately, I would say that I am a single child. So
Mhm,
I do not have any siblings or, for that matter, cousins. 100% the company is owned by my father and my mother, and I am a single child. So essentially, there are only three people who are kind of looking at the company from that angle. See, what I would say is we always keep family, personal and professional life different. That's the first thing always you should remember. For that, we ensure that we leave our work at the office place, at the workplace itself. See, it's easier said than done. It doesn't happen usually always, but we try our level best for that. That's the first thing. Second
Mm-hmm.
thing, what my father did very well was when I took over as CEO of the company after 1 year, he stepped out of that company and went on to the other company. So he told me, now you take the decisions, but it's your accountability and it's your responsibility. Whatever good happens, it will happen. Whatever bad happens, you're only responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me a free hand. And that is what he also got from his grandfather, from my grandfather, that means,
Mm-hmm.
from his father. And that is what he
Okay.
also said, that if there is no point if I'm only involved in all the day-to-day operations, transactions, and everything. He told me a
Mm-hmm.
very good thing actually. He said, a smaller tree can never grow big under a bigger tree. It always has to go separately. Then only it can grow to a
Right.
big tree.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it will only remain a shrub. That's what he told me, and that is always in my mind. And I took that responsibility quite head on because I know that my father and my grandfather and my mother also for that matter have worked very hard in building the legacy of this company. Now, because of me, I don't want to spoil it. So I have to work more harder, in fact, harder than them, and ensure that we maintain that legacy so that it can go to my next generation as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can give this company to my next generation. My grandfather grew from 0 to 1. My father grew from 1 to 100. And my aim is to go from 100 to 1,000. That's what it is. Right?
Okay.
And we have been able to do that. In the last 3 years, I'm very proud to say that we grew almost double in terms of revenue of what we did
Mm-hmm.
in the last 57 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been a good kind of growth story for us with everyone's support. We grew the number of people also from 600 to 900 people today in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we ensured that we expanded to more and more markets, both horizontal and vertical growth as well. So I believe that these interdynamics, though there can be resolved amicably if the intention is right to grow the company. At the end, the intention should be right. And all
Okay.
the three of us in the family are aligned for the company to grow. For us, our company comes first, then and second come the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is good for the company, we as a family have given our life to this company.
Okay.
My parents have given it for the last 30 years, and I'm giving it now for the last 3.5 years, and I will also continue for the next 30 years.
Mm.
So that is the number one thing, and if that agenda is aligned, then all the issues can be resolved, I would say.
Speaking of growth, I think growing double in 3 years, that's quite an achievement, both in terms of manpower and revenue. What different are you doing that is causing this kind of growth?
See, what we did was first we improved our capacity. It's a chicken and egg problem. What do you do? What should you do? Should you improve the demand or should you improve the supply? I went the supplier
Mm-hmm.
kind of route. I improved my capacity first because I came from an execution background. So I first ensured that we went into an expansion project. We built our third factory. So now we have total four factories in our group. Earlier we had only three. And we improved our portfolio in terms of product manufacturing capacity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that we could then get on very well and get more and more orders from the customers. Secondly, what we did, we became very aggressive in terms of pricing. To improve the market share, we became very aggressive in terms of pricing. We went on for an economies of scale model, wherein we improve our volume and we reduce the price of each, right? That's the second thing. Third thing, we went into market expansions. For example, we had never explored markets like Saudi Arabia or Russia for that matter, or Qatar for that matter before that, you know? So we explored those markets. We improved our revenue of export.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, when I took over the company 3 years back, our export share was only 16% of our revenue. Today, I'm happy to say that it's 52% of our revenue.
Wow.
So we are now more than 50% of our revenue is coming from export orders, right?
Mm.
Also, we improved our manpower. our skilled manpower as well as the staff. We ensure that everyone has the responsibility and accountability. Kind of ensure that we also develop a very good HR mechanism, HR system, which was non-existent before that. You know, kind of ensure that we have KPI metrics involved. Everyone is accountable for their own jobs, so that I don't have to get involved in everything. We moved on from a person-driven approach to a system-driven approach, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we have done in the last 3 years, and that's what has been the reason for our growth. And definitely, I'm hoping that in the next 3 years we will grow even double of what we did in the last 3 years.
All right. Can you tell us what are the challenges that you have been facing? For example, I think due to global tensions, recently borders have become more stricter, and the tariffs have become more like doubled or tripled in last 1 year alone. For example, China is not allowing rare earth metals to go outside, and hence the OEMs are suffering in India, the automobile companies are suffering. And similarly, when you are trying to sell outside, let's say if you're supplying to US, because of the new tariff rules, your products are more expensive there. How are you sort of navigating through these global changes?
See, these challenges are always existent, and I think in the last probably 1 or 2 years, this has increased a lot, so to say. Talking about the supply of materials, we are very glad to say that all our materials, most of them, 90% of them are sourced from India itself. We do not,
Mm-hmm.
we are not dependent on China at all. Secondly, whatever materials, the 10% are there, they're all sourced from Europe, because there are certain components which we are still dependent on Europe for manufacturing. So our
Mm-hmm.
dependency on China is not much. Secondly, regarding the global tensions that you say, definitely there has been an impact. The number of orders, or the number of frequency of orders has reduced a bit, because people are not very sure of what is happening, especially right now in the last 1 month with the tensions going on between Iran and Israel. A lot of
Mm.
Gulf countries have also been affected because of that. At the same time, a
Yes.
lot of exotic material prices, that is the non-standard material prices, have also risen. And as a result, our exports, which are mainly focused in the Middle East, have been affected a bit. However, I can say that, we have to always have contingency plans.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we are very sure of is India, right?
Mm.
India is our home country, and always progress will happen in India. So
Correct.
whenever the exports have reduced, we always ensure that we change our focus on India and Indian customers, and we ensure that whatever orders we were losing, maybe on price or maybe on certain other aspects, we stop losing that anymore, because we have lost our focus on exports. So we have that balance in check in place. We ensure that we do not go beyond 50% in terms of exports as a
Mm-hmm.
principle, because we do not want to depend on exports as our major bread and butter, because that is not our major bread and butter. India
Correct.
is, you know,
Correct.
because of these global tensions, there can be some changes that can happen in tariffs, or be it your regulations or duties, which can definitely harm. Then what do we do? Where do we go, right? So we
Correct.
ensure that 50% of our business anyway comes from India itself, no matter what. So we still focus and rely on India for our business, and we will continue to do so in spite of the tensions, because we know that India is a safe country, and India will always look for its citizens and prosperity of the citizens.
Got it. And here is my final question, rather, not a question. I would love to hear a message from you to other entrepreneurs out there who are listening to us. I think you, as a company, are a prime example of how India can make in India and supply outside. Uh, and As a company, we are also innovating, doing research, and coming up with products that are uh, useful for many other countries out there. How would you advise other entrepreneurs to explore at different other areas, or rather other problem statements, which are unexplored but has a huge potential, and um, probably they can create a massive value by sort of experimenting into it?
All right, so great question. See, my message to entrepreneurs would be to not stop trying. Persistence is the key, right? You might fail once, you might fail twice, you might fail thrice, but fourth time definitely you'll succeed because you learn from those three times. It's very important to learn from your mistakes, whatever you're doing. I think it's basically make mistakes fast and learn faster, right?
Mm,
And at a younger age, where when people are my age, they can afford to make those mistakes even more, right? Because right now we are not. I mean, no one is dependent on us, to be honest with you, in terms of finances or responsibilities. So this is a good
mm,
time for young entrepreneurs, especially, to kind of experiment and ensure that we are just not creating service industries. We are creating manufacturing, because at the end, where Europe has really suffered a lot is because they have really lost their interest in manufacturing today. And
mm,
if India really also focuses only on service, the backbone of the economy today is agriculture and manufacturing. If we do not innovate and invent in manufacturing, and if we do not ensure that we give more and more employment to skilled workers, the employment and the overall economy will suffer.
mm,
So I would say that yes, software is good, but ensuring that we have our backbone of the economy is maintained is very important. So I would encourage other entrepreneurs to focus on manufacturing back. Probably you manufacture some innovative products. Like for example, right now, semiconductors is something which is a very, very crucial area for us as India.
yes.
Also, we are dependent on it. But not many Indian manufacturers are willing to kind of invest in it in terms of technology or in terms of manufacturing. So I would
Mm,
kind of encourage my fellow entrepreneurs who are listening to this to kind of uh, indulge in that supply chain. I'm not saying manufacture semiconductors since it requires huge capital, but I'm saying be a part of the supply chain somewhere. We are also in the supply chain, manufacturing instruments for the semiconductor industry as well. So
mm,
having kind of a right problem statement is easy to identify in India, because if we just keep our eyes and ears open, understand from our fellow peers, I think discussing on forums like these, for example, podcasts like these are very crucial for that. At the same time, panel discussions, which I'm usually called for, are also very important, wherein we discuss about what the problems are going on in today's world, especially in India, and what can we do. So, listening to that. Thirdly,
mhm,
probably also understanding from peers. A lot of people in major institutions, education institutions, can discuss with their professors, with their students, with the co-students, or with industry people like us, where we are so consistent with them. So I think that can also be done. And lastly, even companies like us, like for example, what we are doing is through our CSR initiatives, is we
mhm,
are developing labs for institutions like VJTI or an IIT, where we are encouraging people to come and innovate in those labs, giving them all the resources for those labs, and ensure that they can have some patent, they can publish some papers, and manufacturers like us can utilize those and build on that. You know, so that is what, like, a industry education collaboration should happen. I think once that happens, these things will definitely help fellow entrepreneurs to kind of have good ideas and innovate and probably create and ensure that the economy of India gets more boost.
absolutely. On this note, we have come to the closure of the session. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Sarvadnya. And I must say, the work you are doing is really uplifting India in becoming an economic superpower. And we really need to innovate in terms of manufacturing, coming up with new and new physical product, not just IT or software products. I think India is already doing that quite well, but need to focus on manufacturing because who knows, war may break out, and in that case, India will need to rely on itself to produce goods.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for joining us, and kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.